Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. Okay. Well, welcome again after the break. As we go into our late afternoon session, we now got a panel of quality, not quantity. So we have two very distinguished speakers who are going to share a bit of an interview format where they'll be discussing issues relating to how we finance Turkish infrastructure projects. And, they may be adding some other information to that as well to give a broader picture. So with no more ado, I'm going to hand over to Hasan and Yiğit in order to get the session moving. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. Actually, we had Hasan Bey from Black Sea Trade and Development Bank, who is Vice President Banking at the bank. And we had two other speakers, but unfortunately, they were unable to join from EBRD and from Deutsche Bank. And our focus will be today on financing Turkish infrastructure. And my name is Yiğit Rnek. I am a partner at TOCC Attorney Partnership, co-heading Banking and Finance and Corporate and M&A departments. And today we will have like a fruitful interview, I believe, with Hasan Bey. So that will be more friendly manner. So I would like to first inform you that the financing issues under Turkish market in relation to infrastructure has certain flowbacks and advantages as well, and lenders would always like to see government's involvement in those projects. We have usually debt assumption mechanism rather than state guarantee for infrastructure project financing, but concurrently with COVID-19, we have other issues. And during our panel, we will discuss what are the financing flowbacks and advantages of Turkish infrastructure market, along with the COVID-19 measures adopted by the lenders or by the government. And we also would like to focus on the solidarity package program of development banks like Black Sea Development Bank for other fields of market like middle-sized companies or other companies rather than lending to the sponsors for infrastructure projects that could be more attractive for middle size or big size of companies operating in the other fields of sector. So Hasan Bey, first of all, thank you very much as well. Emin Hanım, thank you very much. And I would like to hear from you as you lend a lot for Turkish projects from Greece. And how do you see the financing flowbacks in the Turkish infrastructure projects? And do you believe that those flowbacks relate with all infrastructure projects like highway, hospital PPP projects or tunnels, bridges, or we could define those flowbacks for all infrastructure projects? How do you see Turkish market from a lender's perspective?
All right. Thank you very much. Indeed, yes, as a Black Sea Trade and Development Bank, we are very active actually in the infrastructure projects, because these are the main core of the projects that has development impact in the member countries. Of course, it's not only Turkey, but we have basically significant exposure to other member countries as well. So considering the nature of the project in general, we do it together with the syndication or co-financing B-lender kind of facilities with the other, let's say, MDBs and international financial institutions. So this is the overall nature of the project because of the size. So as you mentioned, what are the main sector within the infrastructure? Mainly the airports, ports, roads and tolls, light rail, urban passenger rail, metro, trams, railways, and all other transportation. Those are overall actually mostly impacted, we can say, but the most impacted one is the airports. Let's put it this way, because the airport, for example, if you look at the metro and the other rail and all others, railways, they, after a couple of months lockdown, they start basically resuming their work and they start basically, operating. So then, they're contributing to the economy and overall. But airports, especially, in Turkey, if you think about the Turkish airlines in general, they are heavily, let's say, linked to the other airport, international airport and international transportation. So the passengers still yet not to reach to the required level so that really they can pay back the loan facilities or other facility. They have a difficulties, let's put it this way. So as you mentioned, this type of project usually in a form of PPP, kind of public-private partnership structure. So this structure usually has a kind of contingent support program, basically provided by the relevant authorities. The relevant authorities sometimes change Minister of Finance, Minister of Transportation, in some cases, municipalities. In our case, for example, we have half. Some of them is the basically the municipalities we have in our portfolio, and some of them ministry and other concerned ministries. So one of the key issues here is that these relevant authorities already they start providing significant extra financial support. Mm-hmm. They already started to that one, and because during this period of time we have seen a shortfalls for satisfying for their debt service obligation. So basically we have also in some like incineration type of projects, waste incineration, that it has also basically some energy generation kind of facility. So it is not really pure infrastructure, but at the same time you have energy facilities on that one. So this type of projects also as a kind of different when you compare it with the typical other infrastructure project. So we have in this portfolio. So here is this type of project we need. We have sometimes like a power purchasing agreements. This is the commonly used methodology for the agreements. We usually rely on that one. The most difficult one is the one like has no contingent support program. That's the difficulties. That is the difficulties now we are facing. So this type of project already started earlier. Some of the airports in Turkey, they started earlier 5 years ago, 6 years ago. They reached to the certain level that maybe 70% or 80% they made a repayment. There is only insignificant. I mean, a certain amount which is remaining, like 30%, 40% depends on the other one. So that is the one basically has the difficulties because. Some of them, they don't have a contingent support program. So with this, what we do usually, we have a kind of measurement together again with other MDBs. We have a restructuring program. Most of the restructuring program, postponing the repayment, rescheduling the repayment, whatever the left over within the reasonable, and also with a kind of unpaid or concessional period. That they don't pay us. So that are the things that we have faced actually so far. And so with that, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, please. I was just curious that since you are active in the market for about, I believe, more than 25 years or about 30 years, and since you have served as president or vice president in other banks, development banks or commercial banks, I also would like to hear from you whether like the financial institutions for which you have worked, whether they see the same difficulties or whether each development bank and or commercial bank has different approach while evaluating those difficulties. I mean, for example, for a development bank, that could be somehow easier to lend, although there are certain flowbacks, but for a commercial bank, certain issues would not let them land for a project, as far as I understand and I experience. So the difficulties that you have encountered at the Black Sea Development Bank, do you think that other commercial or especially other development banks where you have also worked, they have encountered the same problems? And if yes, whether they take it as the same efficient manner or as they are so important as you have considered right now?
Right. Thank you. This is a very good question. The issue is this, as I mentioned at the beginning, this kind of projects is it's not a single bank financing projects. It is, as I said, it's a kind of a bunch of banks. Usually, they participate in the different format, like co-financing, as I said, B-loan type of financing, but they have to have the same terms and conditions. There is no different on that one.
Of course.
My previous organization, for example, my previous development bank, we have a couple of projects. We're facing the same situation. So now what we have to do, we have to act together. If, whatever the basically restructuring or, reorganizing the things that we are doing with the beneficiary is that has to be the same. All has to be united. All has to be basically agreed on the same terms and condition. Now, yes, some of them maybe are not participating in one project. They may participate in another project, but within the single project, within the one project, we have to act together. So there is no different approach on that one. More or less same. I mean, when you consider, like, for example, we have whatever basically approach we establish in one project, usually they replicate, let's put it this way. Usually they replicate the same thing because we are in the same world. It's a small world. So there is no big difference on that one. Maybe 1 year, 2 years, or 6 months kind of different repayment schedule, extending one year or 6 months. But overall, they have to do a structure one, and they have to have a basically unpaid period, because concession period basically. So this is a unified approach in general when you consider restructuring this type of things. But of course,
So do you still believe that Turkish government involvement should be there? Because I mean, most of the projects, they are not guaranteed by the state. There is only debt assumption undertaking by the government for the, let's say, for the infrastructure projects. Do you still expect, as a development bank from Turkey, to implement a new law in relation to, I'm not talking about the type of the guarantee, but in relation to a further guarantee that Turkey can have on the picture?
Look here, as I mentioned, if any project has this kind of supporting, facilities or contingent support program, I mean, in different way, sometimes off-take agreement, they have an off-take agreement. In some projects, also tariff-in kind of tariff-in type of fed-in tariff kind of scheme or something. Yes, fed-in tariff scheme and off-take agreements. But if initially, like we have a case, if there is no such kind of support program in place, usually in the structuring project, the government or the let's say authorities are not involving in any case. So we are just left with the beneficiary, completely beneficiaries. But it is completely left to beneficiaries. But for the new projects, I mean, not approved, the projects in the pipeline, okay? So that, of course, now the lenders and the development banks and other financial institutions, they require a little bit additional security, additional guarantees, or this type of things for the new project. But the problem is that for the new project, currently it is a bit delayed, and the implementation
because of COVID-19.
Exactly, because of the COVID-19 issues. Some projects, for example, we have infrastructure projects. Before COVID-19, there was a deviation of the scope of the project, sometimes increasing, expanding the kind of, the scope. That has a different kind of approach. In that case, we ask the authority to approve this deviation and also finance the, expansion part of the project, whatever the amount. So with this expansion, we require additional securities. So you can play on that one if there is a modification on the existing project. But for the new projects, which is also very important, new projects, yes, we have actually a couple of months, I mean, up to August, and up to now, we can say the authorities has been silent. Let's put it this way. They're not really very aggressive on demanding or asking for a new projects. I mean, let's put it, it's like a put it on hold for the time being.
So as a generally speaking, I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Please go ahead. As a generally speaking, can we say that the Turkish infrastructure projects was somehow bankable from the lender's perspective, but with COVID-19, how is COVID-19 impacting the financing of Turkish infrastructure projects right now?
You see, in general, the economy is impacted. The income generation stream of the countries has been impacted. Balance sheet has been impacted. I mean, in general, all combination altogether basically has impact on the economy and the budget. So at the end of the day, this impact, basically has also created a financing gap because of the, reducing the financial revenues and also increasing the, COVID-19 expenditure because the government took some measurements, tax issues, tax postponement, tax waiver. There are many kind of revenues that the government usually receive. It's not only Turkey, but most of the countries also, implemented this one. It is the tourism, international trade, disruption of the international trade. So this is all together. It has impact, weakening of the foreign exchange reserves as well. So this one, and also, devaluation of the local currencies, that has impact on export, export tourism revenues. So this is a really, big impact. The good things only, contributed to, let's say, especially for the trade financing, export revenues, is the one import expenses. The commodity prices, especially oil prices, has basically a little bit positive impact on the balance of payment for the Turkey, especially given the vast amount of oil being imported. So that's, but not enough. So this positive impact is not enough. So all this together, basically, force the government, in general, to put on most of the projects. It's not only infrastructure project, but most of the project. The only things we have seen as a kind of infrastructure project, hospital project, a little bit pushed and expedited because of the virus problem. So that's the only part that the government a little bit pushed forward.
If you would like to summarize the big challenges that have arisen from the pandemic and their likely consequences for the infrastructure sector, what would be the highlight phrases from you that we can hear?
Could I just interject there, if you can hear me? We talk about government and infrastructure projects. How do municipalities, because they've got infrastructure projects which they're looking to fund. How do municipalities go about, funding their infrastructure projects? Greater Istanbul, for example.
Correct. for example, we have a very significant kind of exposure to the metro projects in Istanbul and also Izmir metro project as well. But we have in Istanbul, we have two type of, let's say, metro project. One is already implemented and up and running, so the income generation is there. Another one is basically they started just to let's say it is initial stage. But the metro has a bigger advantage than the airport and others, because from the income generating perspective, metro project is much better than the bus services and all other services, what we have seen actually. At least they are covering the cost of funding. I can say, I don't know other expenses, but so far we haven't received any kind of request for rescheduling or restructuring any funding. That's the big advantage that we have so far. And plus also, usually municipalities, although there is no open sovereign guarantees, but they receive a significant amount of budget contribution from the central budget, from the central government every year. So when the central government allocate budget for the municipality, they take into consideration their repayment, interest payments, all other payments, mainly other payments to the financial institutions related to projects, metro or other project, like I mentioned, incineration project and other project. So to some extent, it's much more so far, and I can say it's good. So far, we are on the safe side as a bank, and we hope. From after, we're not expecting a kind of any deviation or any kind of default from the municipalities.
Great.
Because of the
Thank you.
What is your bank's policies in respect of those lending? Whether you directly lend or whether there is a syndication between the bank between other commercial banks or development banks? Like I also know that you also take place for certain fundings together with EBRD sometimes. Yeah. But you have also certain direct lending to municipalities. There is only one lender where you lend. So as a general, if you make a proportion or percentage about your lending, whether you usually directly lend or whether you lend together with other lenders for the projects in Turkey.
Yeah, we prefer usually to go a co-financer with other lender. That's one of the risk mitigation factor. This is usually the general policy of all other MDBs. So they don't prefer, from the risk perspective, to go alone together. Because, technically when you go more detail on that one, if you do co-financing, the capital charge, rating impact, and the liquidity stress test, everything, little bit lighter than if you go alone, if you take the risk alone. So that's the advantage of that one. So we prefer that one. But so far, as I said, because the size is so big, so you cannot go, because internally you have all the banks has a policy, single project maximum limit, single country maximum limit, say this one. So because of this single exposure limit policies in general, this is not only for our case. So this kind of limits usually depends on your asset size, your capital contribution. So the different varieties they are taking into consideration and the lending. So normally it is about all other banks. Even the development banks, they don't prefer that one. So yes, especially infrastructure project, because of the development impact, the development banks usually take a leading role. But within, basically together with the development banks, you can see like OFIT, like other international financial institution, they also participate also together with the basically with the development banks. So usually what I can say, 60% minimum development banks participate, and 40% other international financial institution or investment banks participate in this type of projects. Because each member countries member of different kind of development banks. For example, Turkey is a member of Asian Development Bank, New Development Bank, EBRD, World Bank, IFC, so BSTDB. So if anything happens, because of the shared member countries, we all get together and find a way and finance this type of big project. And usually, because the development banks take the lead, because of the a reasonable pricing. It's not because at the end of the day, development banks, we don't distribute the dividend to our member countries. Our shareholder is the state. So whatever the income we generate, it goes to as a reserve in our capital. So we just increase. It is whatever the income we generate, it goes to our reserve account. So basically boost our capital and capital adequacy, so on and so forth. So that's the different approach between the development banks and other international banks.
Thank you very much for these explanations.
A little bit very technical.
What about UK Export Finance? UK.
Yes, we do. We have also, because our name by name is Trade and Development Bank, Black Sea Trade and Development Bank. We provide the basically export finance, export and import financing in our member countries. There are two ways we finance. One is through the IFIs, local IFIs in the member countries. Usually it goes to the SMEs, small and medium-sized export and import companies. Another one is the direct exposure, which basically for the big like oil companies in our member countries, they export oil and gas, like Azerbaijan and Russia is the main kind of oil and gas exporter countries. And we have other countries, member countries, they are the oil importer countries. We provide two types of financing for that one, funded and unfunded. Unfunded is basically it's a guarantee, the guarantee type of things. And unfunded is the short term. Usually trade financing is a short term, maximum 2 years. And usually it's a 1 year revolving facilities. So, but what we do actually, this is the big one, direct exposure for the big companies. But what we're very active, especially BSTDB, very active on SMEs who are exporting and importing basically, but under the basically, let's say, monitoring of the like Exim banks, Turkish Exim banks. So each country has a kind of import and export authorities. Sometimes it's a bank, sometimes it's agencies, they call it agencies. So what we do usually, we provide a package to those kind of agencies or the banks, export and import banks, so that we, as a finance, we take the risk of the basically Exim bank or the agencies rather than individual SMEs in place, because we don't have a regional offices like EBRD has a regional offices. They can take and they can deal with the small companies directly, but we don't have that facilities. So we usually use this kind of agencies. It's less costly for us and more effective also for us.
Thank you very much. Actually, for our last 10 minutes, I would like to switch to another topic that your bank implements in respect of COVID-19 measures. Do you have any COVID-19 solitary package? Do you have any COVID-19 response as Black Sea Trade and Development Bank? And if yes, what are your target borrowers in respect of those measures? I mean, are you directly lending to borrowers who need funding due to COVID-19, or are you lending directly to IFIs for them to make available those loans to mid-sized companies? What is your approach as Black Sea Trade and Development Bank?
Yes, thank you. Actually, immediately we also reacted like other development banks. We prepare a package. I mean, our size is not that big, but we prepare a minimum euro 900 million. It's also published in our bank basically website as well. So basically,
so no confidential information.
It's not a confidential information, of course. And basically, the target is to assist the sectors and industries most affected by this turmoil caused by the COVID-19. So that was the main one. Of course, the issue is this, as you mentioned here, most affected one is the infrastructure, let's put it this way, because, you know, infrastructure sector is supported, there is a value chain. It's supported by the construction, you know, suppliers and all these things. Usually, exactly, these companies are the medium-sized companies, let's put it this way. So, you know, basically we targeted those companies, SMEs, through, again, like, you know, specialized financial institution in Turkey, like, you know, Turkish Exim Bank and some other state-owned banks, basically with the special packages like energy efficiency, call it energy efficiencies, or supply chain, support the supply chain, even sometimes women enterprises who are very active in the agriculture sector. So these are the basically, instead of directly going to supporting this one, we usually select the financial institution and design a package. Sometimes we do it directly, and also sometimes we mobilize also resources from other development banks or some other IFIs. They are also sensitive to certain sectors, for example, energy efficiency, green energy, women enterprise development, this type of packages, they are also very sensitive. So they join us. So with the package that we announced, and we bring them as, again, usually be a lender under us. So we finance this type of project. We did successfully, I can say, I mean, quite a, you know, that's the one of the success story we can say. So, but we use, again, the financial institution IFIs in Turkey, basically. So that has been very successful, and we have very great feedback from the authorities, let's say, you know, concerned authorities, economic authorities in Turkey. Let's put it this way.
Thank you very much. In fact, I mean, I hope I didn't ask too many questions, but
no, it's okay.
As I am a lawyer, if you have any questions about any flowbacks of infrastructure projects or COVID-19 that you would like to hear from another lawyer, I would also be happy to answer. I hope that I didn't ask too many questions to you. So feel free to ask any questions you may have from a legal point of view, that I will be of assistance, that I will be happy as well.
Thank you. I mean, at this stage, anything restructuring means everything is a legal process. Has nothing to do banking, has nothing to do credit quality. It's all about legal process from A to Z. So you are every stage. I mean, whatever we have seen, every stage you are in the process. So as a lawyer, sometimes internal law, of course, our internal lawyer is engaging with you. So it's a very detailed question, but I mean, it's a very, very wide subject.
That since we are like talking to one or two, since there are no other panelists, I mean, I hope that I really enjoyed listening to you, and I really took notes of several important things that I also learned. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for you and for Chris' inputs as well, and for Emine's organization. I really enjoyed a lot. Thank you very much.
There is a question actually. Can I just, you know, the Burcu Tokat Lahişka is in the event page. She says, you know, I have a questions to Demirhan, Mr. Demirhan. Which project they are involving in their...
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll just... Okay. All right. Okay, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. Burcu says, you know, Burcu has a question for you. So she is asking which projects they are involving as BSTDB. What kind of projects?
BSTDB.
Which projects, yeah.
Basically, in the infrastructure project she's talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a list of projects. It's not only one, and you know, we have Izmir Metro projects. We have Istanbul Municipality waste incineration and energy generation project. This is the kind of for example, we have TAV Izmir airport projects, but this is about to finish the repayment. We have Istanbul metro projects. We have been there because the Istanbul metro project usually they implemented in the different stages, variety of the stages. Mm-hmm. So we started a new one basically between the Ümraniye and Ataşehir line. So because what they do usually, they divide the lines and then they implement accordingly. But we participated many before, they already paid. And, these are we have also, of course, Etlik Hospital, Ankara Etlik Hospital, Konya Hospital projects. So we have quite significant big projects. These are very, very big projects. And most of the project we finance them together with other MDBs as a co-financer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Do we have any other questions?
No,
okay.
That one was interesting. That's why, I ask.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, well, the two of you managed to get a lot of information into that session, and you finished right on time, which is
exactly
an excellent result. Very informative. Hasan, you were beyond the call of duty with your contribution.
Thank you.
Thank you to you, and thank you to you navigating that session. And I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about some of the topics that you've been discussing. So thank you both, and
you're welcome.
See you soon. Bye bye.
See you soon.
Bye
bye.
Bye bye. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.